So there was this moment that somebody asked me, what do you hope for Christmas? It wasn't this scene. It was the one before of Christmas trees. And one of the things that I love best for the holidays is being able to sit in my living room with the Christmas tree lit. There is something magical about Christmas scenes like that. And maybe you have that yourself. That moment where you just imagine how magical Christmas can be, of peaceful and serene, delightful. All is at peace, right? And then reality happens. And suddenly you are Kevin McAllister's parents, waking up too late for your schedule that you have predetermined for all that must happen, right? And maybe you don't oversleep. I have never overslept in my entire life. But for those who have, I hear that you panic, and then you start to cram as much in as possible. You start to want to make it all happen, and you want it to be happy. You don't want the plans to be ruined because, gosh, the plans are perfect. Plans are perfect, friends, not life. Okay? But it is in the messiness and the grittiness of life that we experience some really beautiful things. But this is the season to be busy, isn't it? Is everybody ready for tomorrow? You are, okay. I think you're one amongst many. I think most of us still have that to-do list of get kids to bed, get things wrapped up, right, for the evening. Maybe prepare some food that will be happening tomorrow, making your plans to go here or there or everywhere. And I hope that in your mad scramble that you do not forget your child somewhere, or leave them at home while you have gone trucking away to parts unseen. But seriously, there's this point, right, where we go from magical to manic. We go from everything seems wonderful to then we're running behind. I don't know what we're running behind from, but we're there. Or maybe you don't feel that you are so frantic, but maybe you are in a place where you are trying to hold grief and joy in the same breath. Maybe there is somebody that you will miss at that table tomorrow. Someone that you won't get to see unwrap presents. And there is a heartbreak there. I think many of us walk in carrying, at minimum, 2 versions of Christmas within us. The what I thought it would feel like and what it actually is. And that's you. If that is you tonight, you are in good circumstances. Because this is exactly where our story begins. Now, most of our understanding of our Christmas story as we know it comes from Matthew and Luke. But tonight, I want us to hear from John. Now, John tells a Christmas story a little different than anyone else. He doesn't talk about a stable. There are no shepherds, there are no angels, and that is not to say that there weren't. But John is not going to talk about those things. He talks about light, entering the darkness. Light entering the darkness, not to shame it, not to judge it, not to pretend that the darkness isn't there, but to illuminate it. Christmas doesn't erase the dark. And that is the tension we hold. I think that is what causes so much of our anxiety or our discontent at times, and why we are often uncomfortable with an ideal, magical image of Christmas is because we know that for all the beautiful lights, for all the wonderful decorations, the amazing food, the gathering with friends and family, that there is still heartbreak in this world. That is tension, because the arrival of December, y'all, the arrival of December for this year didn't erase my grief, my exhaustion, my heartbreak, my regret. It did not get rid of any of that. It did not get rid of my fear, my loneliness, my unanswered prayers did not suddenly disappear with the arrival of December. Just as 2,000 years ago, the birth of Christ didn't erase the darkness. Because the good news isn't that the darkness disappears. We know that it hasn't disappeared, don't we? We know this. We can turn on the news, we can just pay attention to our own lives, and we know this, that the darkness has not disappeared. The good news is that the light shines in the darkness. The light shines in the darkness for us, friends. The light shows up anyway. That light shines in the darkness, not after everything's all cleaned up and perfect. Not once everyone behaves the way they should behave, right? Not once the darkness is gone does the light say, "Hi, will come, because now it is my time." No, John tells us the light comes and the darkness does not overcome it. We've touched on this a few times with what Grace has sung with us, what she's talked about with just a very silly, but I think very well done Lego interpretation of Christmas. That Jesus wasn't born into glitz and glamour. He wasn't born into a spotlight, but into a night, to be the light. And this is where Christmas starts. Light doesn't wait for darkness to behave or erase. It shows up. Jesus is that light. And it shows us that God shows up in the real world. In the way that things are, not the way that we want them to be. God shows up in the reality of our lives, not our imagined daydreams. And God, when he arrives, doesn't arrive polished, protected, or insulated. He doesn't have armed guards keeping watch over him. He shows up as a baby. And babies are delightful. There's some smell in their neck, by the way, that is intoxicating until they fill their diaper. But babies are rather vulnerable, aren't they? They're messy. They're noisy. They refuse to obey a schedule, y'all. A baby. This is how God takes on flesh, as a baby. And he lands not in a beautiful, delightful nursery decorated with the images of Noah's Ark. He shows up in a feeding trough. Similar, but not the same. A feeding trough, y'all. This is not that $1,000 bassinet that you have been told you need for your child. He shows up to tired parents. Well, that's standard. That's par for the course. Nothing new there. And he shows up in a borrowed place, in a home that is not their own, but probably an ancestral home. There's no filters, there's no pretending here. There is just messiness. There is no, once everything is ready for guests, will he arrive? No, he arrives in his timing. And God chooses the real world, the messy, ordinary, complicated one we actually live in. And this is why I love Christmas. I do love the lights, I love the cookies, I love gathering with family, but the rest of it, whatever. This is the heart of the story that I love, is the messy rawness of God showing up in the mess of life, showing up in the reality of my life, that God is not flinching from the ugliness, the messiness, the dog hair, the dirty dishes of my life. That means that our real life is no barrier to God, as much as we like to think that it is, that God will want nothing to do with me. You're fooling yourself. Because we see that God shows up in the messiest of circumstances, because that is the very place God comes. And if God can be born there, he can meet us here. If God can be born there, he can meet us here. There is nothing in your life that is too messy for God. See, Jesus was born into a world that looks a lot like ours. There's political tension. There is fear. There is uncertainty about the future. There is exhaustion. There are unmet expectations across the board. People are longing for it to be different. Sounds familiar, right? And Jesus steps into our messy lives the same way. And he sees the real us, the tired us, the grieving us, the hopeful, but sometimes more unsure than hopeful us. He shows up for the us that is gathered here tonight. And this is God saying, I am not far. I'm right here. I'm not waiting to show up. I am here with you, right where you are. This is what we mean when we say, Emmanuel, God with us. This isn't some nice platitude. This is a reality of God who comes into the mess of our lives. And the beautiful thing is that it is not about making our lives perfect for a perfect God. It is about a God who draws near to us in his perfection. Because Christmas doesn't ask us to try harder as much as we want our expectations to do that, right? That's us. Those are our traditions. Those are the things that we do to make this season magical when God says, I am the magic. I am the miracle that shows up for you in the mess of it all. If we could let go of those expectations, I think we would enjoy our holidays a little bit more. Christmas doesn't demand that you fix yourself first. It doesn't require you even to be joyful on command. Because Christmas, Christ with us, proclaims presence over perfection. It's God with us, not God impressed by us. It's God with us, not God impressed by us. Because Jesus is not the reward for getting everything right. He's not the prize, y'all, for us winning. Because we're not going to win. We don't have the capacity to win on our own merit. Instead, Jesus is a gift, not a reward. Jesus is a gift. When life feels good, when life feels heavy, when life feels joyful, when life feels overwhelming, Jesus is still that gift. And we believe this at Reimagine deeply, that you don't have to clean yourself up to belong. You don't have to have it figured out to be loved. You don't have to pretend to be welcomed, because God shows up first. And that presence will change everything. That very presence of God will change everything. Often slowly, gently, and faithfully. But it will change everything. Because God's nearness does what our striving never could. Because Christmas is truly about the gifts that we need. It's not simply about little baby Jesus, however many pounds Ricky Bobby and them pray to. It's about a God who comes near. The manger points us to a life that is about showing up again and again, and a love that keeps coming towards us. A love that refuses to give up when we wander, doubt, fall, or hide. That love continues to pursue us. See, Christmas is the promise that God's love is stubborn in the best sense of the word. He will chase us down because his love is not fragile, conditional, nor fleeting. So tonight, know this, that God is not asking for us to bring more stuff to him. He's already here with us. And he brings what we actually need. We need presents, not the kind you find under a tree, but the kind of thing where you look somebody in the eye and you know that they see you. This is a God who stays. We have a God who offers us the gift of forgiveness, who lets us have a fresh start every day. A God who brings light to show truth without abandoning us. A God who brings hope and shows us what hope looks like because he keeps showing up. And God shows us what love looks like when it doesn't quit. Because God refuses to walk away. This is a love that doesn't quit when things get hard. Because it's already chosen to stay. So tonight, we have an opportunity. We have these lovely candles. And I want you to take your candle for a moment. We're not going to light them just yet. I know you're very excited. This is what you came for. Where else do you get to play with fire? Come on. But no, I want you to hold your candle. Kids, if you got a glow stick, crack it. It's time. I know you already have, but you know. And I want you to ask yourself, where do you need light right now? Where does the darkness feel most heavy? Where do the shadows seem to want to consume you and draw you in? Where are things too dim or uncertain? Where do you need that light right now? Maybe there is a name that is coming to mind. Maybe there's someone that needs a reminder that they're not alone. Let this candle be your reminder that you are not alone. That you can receive light. And you can carry light. And you can share light. Because light multiplies when it's shared. When we are singing the very traditional Silent Night a little bit later, I want you to take a moment and take in the light. One of my favorite things to watch, often from my vantage point, is to watch the light spread from person to person. It's a beautiful symbol of how light multiplies when it is shared. So tonight I want you to receive not only the light of this candle, but the light of Christ, the gift of Jesus. And to know that the light you receive becomes light that you carry. And light that you can share. And maybe you need to look for one person who needs to hear
God is near. You are not forgotten. You matter. That's how the story continues. That's how the light spreads. And the thing about the light, the thing about God, is you don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel joyful. You don't have to have it all together. You can still receive and carry the light. So tonight you are invited to receive. Tonight may you receive Jesus, the gift who meets us where we are and loves us too much to leave us here. I'm going to invite my friend Grace to come forward to lead us in this song. And as she prepares, I want to give